There's something I didn't expect about self-employment. So my income has gone up every year for 4 years straight since I started working for myself. And last year was the first year I hit six figures. And I still have days where I'm convinced it's all about to collapse. So 2 quiet days, no emails, a couple of clients disappear. And there's this internal shift of, well, right, this is it. It's never, this is just a slow week. It's always, this is the beginning of the end. And that feels ridiculous to say out loud, but it is what happens. And what's interesting in this is when I'm busy, that thought disappears. But the voice doesn't. It just changes topic. So if I'm really busy and work is heavy, it starts to tell me that I'm neglecting my kids, that I should be spending time with my family. And then if I happen to take some time off, it tells me I'm lazy. If a client says yes to a price very quickly, it says I undercharged. If a client says no to my price, it says you embarrassed yourself and you tried to get too big for your boots. There's literally always something. This voice appears at every single stage of the freelance journey with something negative. And that's when I realized the voice isn't reporting problems. It's a serial complainer. It's like an annoying friend who just literally complains about absolutely everything, no matter what the scenario. And it doesn't care what the topic is. It just needs a topic to complain about. So money, parenting, pricing, reputation, it just rotates everything. And once I saw this pattern, something started to shift. Because if it complains in every scenario, the issue probably isn't the scenario. As I try and understand this better, I think a lot of it comes from employment. So I left my job just under 4 years ago, but I don't think employment ever left me or my nervous system. When you're employed, income is predictable. Silence means something must be wrong, something is wrong. Payroll, never just pauses for a few days. Did actually once in a place I worked, and utter panic, let me tell you. But now I run a business and businesses move in cycles. Freelancers live in volatility. That's the way it is. But emotionally, we still expect stability. And that mismatch is what creates the drama. So around the time I started working for myself, I also started investing in stocks, mainly for my future, but also because I was somewhat interested and I didn't want my money sitting in the bank and I wanted to appreciate it, etc. But it gave me a new perspective that I never expected. The biggest companies in the world, if you look close enough, have definitely bad days, bad weeks, bad quarters. Their stocks can drop 20 or 30% sometimes. Look at the biggest companies, any of them, Apple, Google, whatever. But they don't go to zero because of that. Like the volatility is just completely normal in any healthy stock. And extinction is very rare. So when you look at one day, you may see a drop, a trajectory that goes down. Even if you look at 1 week or 1 month on the biggest stocks, the most profitable companies in the world, you may well see a trajectory that goes downward. But when you zoom out, you get a different picture. So when you zoom out to a year, you get a slightly different picture. When you zoom out to 5 years, you always get a very different picture. You get a line that goes in one very clear direction. And that's when I realized I was analyzing my business like an employee checks his payslip, instead of how an investor looks at a long-term chart. And that changed how seriously I take quiet days and dips. Another thing is I genuinely thought, and I think we all do this, that there would be a number that would stop this. For me, it was 6 figures. Once you hit 6 figures, you'll be comfortable. You'll be able to relax. It'll be all good. You'll have enough to get by. You won't have to stress too much about your finances. But I hit that. And this continues. As the number goes up, the imagined fall gets bigger. So maybe you don't have kids, but that becomes, well, this is going to be very embarrassing if my business fails. As somebody who has kids, I know it. You start to think, well, my kids depend on me. I can't even have this drop a little bit because anyone who has kids knows it's expensive. You have a mortgage and you think, what if I lose my house? Or you're renting. What if I can't pay my rent? Anything, no matter what it is, something like this will show up. The serial complainer just upgrades the stakes. So chasing more income to feel safe doesn't actually solve it. It just increases the height of the imaginary cliff. So what actually helps here? I've got to be honest, I'm still working on this. But what definitely doesn't help is working harder to almost as a way to try and avoid it. It wasn't obsessively saving either. That's often the advice that you get. More outreach, save more, save a nest egg. But what helped me was upgrading how I interpret quiet. So first, I noticed that the ceiling keeps moving. So ask yourself what number would make you feel safe. But then ask yourself if previous numbers have actually changed how you felt. And then you can see you're just imagining that a number is going to make you feel safe. The problem isn't the number. If previously more money didn't help you feel safe, then this imaginary 6 figures or 7 figures, whatever it might be, probably won't either. Second, define quiet in advance. So 2 quiet days, let's define that means nothing. 1 quiet week, maybe let's look at some outreach. 2 quiet weeks, maybe let's review pipeline. Like put some rules around these quiet phases. And now silence is no longer a prophecy. It's just a trigger for some sort of action. So the brain panics in undefined spaces. So define it and it will settle. The third is shrink the disaster. So if revenue dropped by 30% or 40%, what would you actually do? And write it down. Come up with a plan. I promise you'll actually come up with a really good plan, because I've tried this and I've gone, well, actually, I'd be okay. 30% drop, I'd be fine. And here's what I do. Catastrophe only really works when things are vague. So remove that vagueness. This voice sounds convincing because it's urgent. It speaks in absolutes. So it'll say things like, it's over, you messed this up, you're about to be exposed. But it never says this might just be a normal fluctuation. It doesn't do nuance and it doesn't retire. So when money is fine, it attacks something else. It doesn't care about the topic, it cares about uncertainty. And once I saw that, I stopped treating it like authority. And I start noticing it instead, actually hearing it, sometimes saying it out loud. So it's about to end. It's all about to fall apart. You hear how dramatic that sounds when you say it out loud. And I would then just kind of argue back with it and say, well, actually, my last 4 years have all gone on an upward trajectory. I don't think it's going to fall apart suddenly out of nowhere. You start to realize how ridiculous it sounds just by observing it. But I got to say as well that this is not a quick fix. Noticing the voice doesn't switch it off. You don't just separate it once and suddenly become calm forever. This is repetition. This is a muscle you're going to have to flex. So it comes back and you notice it. It comes back again and you notice it again, and keep kind of interacting or somewhat arguing with it. And here's another important one. If you're in a negative state, don't make big decisions. Don't suddenly blast outreach. Don't jump on calls. Don't start discounting just to feel movement. When you operate out of fear, you're underpricing and you're overpromising. You'll take work you don't even want, and the voice then wins twice. So first it panics you and then it pushes you into bad decisions. So instead, just assume that it's a phase. Take a day, get outside, move, or work on something long-term, content, writing, skills, whatever it might be, an asset that benefits you in the future. And it's a difference between proactive and panic. So where I've landed with all this as I try and learn is that I don't think that this voice ever fully disappears. I think the goal is to stop treating it like an authority. Volatility is built into business. And if you don't update your nervous system for that, you'll always feel unsafe no matter how much you earn. So you're not broken. You're just running a business with an employee alarm system. And it's time for an update.